My name's Stephen Huff, and I'm a lung cancer survivor. I would like to think I've tried to live a very healthy and straightforward life. Before all of this, I was very heavily involved in sports, especially baseball. I had the privilege to play college and even professional baseball. I was extremely vigilant about what I put into my body, what I ate, what I drank. It started probably with my dad. My dad loves baseball. Growing up in the 90s in the South, the only TV station that we got at night was the Atlanta Braves. The 90s were really the mecca for Atlanta Braves baseball. I remember every night coming home from school, we'd get our dinners trays out and we would watch the Braves play. And I really fell in love with baseball. So I grew up at the baseball park. Even when I wasn't quite old enough to play, I was there. I was just trying to envision and dream of what it would look like when I was old enough to play myself. And once I started to play, it really just took off. I got the bug really bad and became obsessed with it. What started as a very small, shortness of breath, one instance, turned into multiple times daily to the point where it would interrupt me talking. And then same with the coughing, that started as a daily cough and then it turned into, I had a difficult time lying down at night and breathing. I was 29. Things were really starting to line up for me. I had a professional career as a baseball player. I had gone back to graduate school and gotten my master's in education, and I'd actually just landed my first teaching job, which I was very excited about, starting a new career at the age of 29, and I was engaged to the love of my life, Emily. We were gonna get married in September of 2017.
One day he felt a lump in his collarbone. We didn't really correlate the two, but it was something that was bothering him, and so I just told him to go get it checked out.
I was about halfway home and my phone rang, and it was a number that I didn't recognize. It was my doctor on the other end, and he said, "Stephen, are you driving a car right now?" And I said, "Yes." "Is everything okay?" And he said, "I think you should pull over." And so I remember pulling into a parking lot that's in a church that's nearby. My heart began to race, and I think I just knew the words that were gonna come out of his mouth before he even said it. It was a very surreal feeling. I was terrified. My heart was racing. I couldn't hardly speak. I was so nervous and jittery. And he said, "Stephen, I've made an appointment for you with an oncologist for tomorrow morning, first thing." And I said, "An oncologist, like a doctor or physician that specializes in cancer?" And he said, "Yes."
We had our appointment the next day with an oncologist, and they told us that it looked like adenocarcinoma, lung cancer.
God, I can't even put into words that experience. I would never wish for anyone to go through that process of hearing those words from a doctor. For me, I think immediately I went into denial.
Utter devastation, shock. It was like the world stopped. We were in the doctor's office with our parents, Stephen there, and I just remember just shock. You almost stop hearing and stop seeing things, and your mind starts racing, and I just couldn't believe it. Just started searching for success stories and survivor stories. That was something we had to lean on in the first few days, just trying to pull some form of hope, because in that doctor's office, we were told the 5% chance of survival for 5 years. And that's just something we couldn't accept or couldn't make sense of. And so I think as Stephen's caregiver, I just wanted to try to find as much hope in research and reading things and finding things on the internet. And that was my way of helping in those first few days.
One of the things that cancer just in general does, and even treatments for that matter, is it takes away sort of the feeling of control in life. And I had a really hard time with that. Feeling like that I didn't control my destiny. It's really been an adjustment for me, because up to this point in my life, I was very healthy and I was very active and I had full control of my body and the path forward. And so treatments have really been a lifesaver in the sense that they have kept the cancer at bay. But honestly, I wouldn't be here today if not for my wife, Emily. You know, she's my rock. She's my caregiver, but she's also my confidant. She's my best friend. She's my soft place to land. And she's also sometimes my biggest motivator. Emily is born with the temperament to not only put up with me, but to also deal with a husband that has stage 4 lung cancer. She comes to every single appointment. She takes notes. She does research. She's involved in advocacy. I can't imagine, and I tell her this all the time, I don't know how you do it. I feel like being the patient is easier than being the caregiver. That's not politically correct, but caregivers, they withstand so much and they listen to us so much and they go through everything we go through, yet patients are the ones that are the priority, conversationally. How's Stephen doing? Is Stephen okay? Is Stephen sleeping enough? Is he eating enough? She is so strong that, I have to step back and I have to ask her, how are you doing? How are things with you? And I can't imagine that weight that she carries. Emily's very strong. She's also very stoic. So she does not wear her emotions on her sleeve. And a lot of times when we would be going through something really challenging, she sort of put her strong face on and said, let's do this, we got this. But deep down, I definitely knew that she was battling, she was hurting.
I've always tried to steer away from showing Stephen my own fear. And I just want him to see positivity and hope. And that's hard on a caregiver, to kind of take on that fear and worry and stress alone. I've never wanted to put that burden, my worry, my stress, my fear, I've never wanted to put that on Stephen, because he's going through enough with just this diagnosis and all of his fear and worry.
I'm very fortunate that I'm doing well in my disease. But the reality is that we live in that fear of something going wrong, or the next scan maybe not very good, or changing treatments. And so we talk about, what would life look like if something happened to me?
There have certainly been moments where we're vulnerable together, and I've come out and shared all of my worries and fears. And I think at the end of the conversation, we both feel better getting those worries and fears off of our chest. So it's shown me that I don't have to hold it in so much, and that Stephen still is support for me, even though he's the patient. He wants me to be vulnerable and share, you know, how I'm feeling with him just as much as I need that, you know, from him on his side as well. And so there have been moments where I've, you know, shared everything that I'm thinking and feeling, and it hasn't been a negative. It's brought us closer. If I could tell myself 6 years ago that we would still be here as a couple and living our lives as normal, I wouldn't believe it. I would just say, you know, get through the tough times, get through the low feelings of hopelessness, because there is hope and beauty throughout this journey. You're not alone. There's many people out there that are going through the feelings and thoughts and worries that you might be feeling as well. And it's so incredibly important to find your support system, whether that's your partner or your family and friends or online social media group, and maybe a combination of all of those things. It's important to take care of yourself if you want to be there for the person that you're caregiving for. Don't lose sight of making sure that you're okay throughout this journey too. Stephen and I were engaged when he was diagnosed, and so we were 3 months before our wedding. And we always knew that we wanted to be parents. We wanted to have a family. That was really core to our beliefs and our wants as a couple. And this diagnosis happened, and that's kind of the last thing you're thinking about. You're just thinking about, how can I survive this day, this week? But our oncologist actually talked to us right before Stephen started treatment to say that we should look at fertility options in case we decided down the road that we wanted to start a family.
I remember when we talked to my oncologist about family planning and how I was a young cancer patient. My oncologist recommended we go to the sperm bank, and I had no interest in that. I was focused on getting my life in order. I remember sitting in our bedroom, and I was talking about how I was going to cancel the appointment at the fertility clinic. You asked why, and I said, Emily, I don't see why I should do this. Are we really gonna have kids, you know, after all this? Stage 4, you heard the doctor, there's no cure. I said, what if we have kids, and then what if I die? And she said, Stephen, what if you live?
The fact that we found so much hope in research and advancements with treatment options, we decided to move forward with family planning, because we knew that was, you know, when we met each other, that was so important to what we wanted out of life. We had Owen in 2020, right before COVID. It was the best decision we ever made. I questioned it for a long time. You know, is that something we should do in our situation, in our, you know, bringing a child into kind of this world with everything we have going on. But I felt for so long after Stephen's diagnosis that I would worry what my life was going to turn out to be.
So here you go.
Here you go.
Owen
camera.
has just been fulfilling my dream, giving me a purpose in this life. I do feel like I have purpose in being there for Stephen and supporting him on his journey as a patient. And now I'm a mom and I have 2 children to take care of and to love, and they bring me so much purpose and joy. It's just, I don't know why I spent 1 minute questioning, if it was the right choice, because it just feels like it was totally meant to be.
Beating cancer is not living to be 100 years old. It's when I lay my head down on the pillow at night, was I the best husband possible? Was I present? Was I attentive? Was I the best dad I could possibly be that day? The greatest titles that I've ever had in my life, it's not baseball player or teacher. It's
Good job.
husband and it's dad.